Hello, I'm Regina and this is Backstage, where we talk with the who's who on stage, in dance, comedy and performing arts, speaking with the leading theatre makers of our times and how they came to the stage and what drives them and inspires them. And my guest is Gareth Davies. He's an actor and playwright and has written and performed for the Black Lung Theatre Company, Belvoir St Theatre, Malthouse, and many, many more. Some of the things you might have seen him in, and I have seen him in, well, not the Cherry Orchard at Melbourne Theatre Company, but the Government Inspector, the Rover, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Peter Pan, As You Like It. They call him Mr. Glamour, which he also wrote, the Seagull, As You Like It for Belvoir, the Literati, and so many more. That's only just touching the surface of the productions he's been involved with. You may have seen him in film and on TV. Please welcome Gareth Davies.
Hello, thank you. I'm expecting cheers after that amazing introduction.
Indeed. Cheers from me at least. And you're in the production that has just opened at the Ensemble Benefactor, but we'll get to that. Before we do, how did you come to the theatre in the first place? Was it a creative household? Were you do you remember the first moment you went, that's what I want to do?
I remember I did come from quite a creative household, but I never thought I was going to be an actor for some reason. And then I always assumed I was going to be some sort of poet, I guess, or maybe a philosopher. And I certainly became neither. But during university, I went to Monash University and I was studying an arts degree. And bit by bit, I went to fewer classes and they had a really good student theatre community there. And bit by bit, I went to less classes and more I got into the theatre. And next thing I know, that's all I do. Uh-huh. And here we are all these years later.
So what kind of creative household was it? What did your parents do, or what was it like?
My mum was a teacher and she taught art and drama, and very much both of my parents were really into English, and we liked reading a lot and books and literature. And I think we also travelled around a lot. So I was born in Holland and I lived in America and a couple of other places. And I think there's something in when you're a kid and you have to move around, you are kind of reinventing yourself a little bit more as you try to ingratiate yourself to whatever new community you're suddenly thrust into, being a weird, skinny little American kid in Adelaide or wherever it is. And I think that must have been part of it. Just immediately, like from the get-go, I was trying to change myself all the time. So it makes sense looking back on it that that's now what I do for a living.
Okay. So what about the poetry and the philosopher? Were there, certain people or do you bring that into your writing somehow, or not at all?
I would love to say so. I think that was more kind of me just being 15 years old. I love poetry and I love philosophy, but it reaches a point where you kind of start butting up against your capability. And I think it takes a little while to get there. And then eventually you're 20 years old and you go, I've stopped understanding what I'm reading.
So you said that you were more and more getting into acting. And I wonder, what was the point of training and when did that kind of happen for you?
So I was doing a lot of student theatre and I wasn't serious about it. But I was just really enjoying it and really kind of feeling stimulated. More than anything else, it was kind of the constant stimulation. And so my training was a little bit from that and university, but mainly it was just doing it. So we started... we made a theatre company and we started writing and making our own shows. And initially it would be to 6 people and then 16 people and then 60 people. Yeah. And that was really our training, was being right in the middle of it, which is in some ways really good, I think, because trial by fire, you learn so much from doing. And then it reached a point though where I went, okay, there's certain gaps in my knowledge that I really have to just kind of as intelligently as possible circle, be a little bit, be brutally self-critical at what I need to work on. And that happened. But I do believe that the best way of learning how to act is to be thrust into that fire time and time again.
So Was it kind of easy to do then? Is it something, how has the theatre's like scene changed since those early days for you?
The independent theatre scene in Melbourne was really taking off when we were coming out. We was part of a group called the Black Lung, and there was a Hayloft project, and there was a bunch of other people who were kind of we all had quite a lot of fury and righteousness, which sometimes was misguided, but also it was we were inspired by it, and I think other people were inspired by it too. I really loved that, and I look back on that time as very, very difficult. We built a theatre by ourselves. We lived in it. We weren't making any money. We were spending all our money doing it because we were fundamentally believers in it, and it wasn't a job for us. It was a way of connecting with people and howling and falling in love. It was a big experience, a stimulating experience, rather than a job. And I suppose that is still happening now, but certainly it happens less and less to a 40-year-old when you go, God, I'm so I need to get it together a little bit. But I think like any artistic pursuit, I think very few people or very few successful artists get into it as a job first. I think there is a need that drives you to do it, and then you hope that if you keep pursuing it with a sense of fury and urgency and self-righteousness in some ways, that you'll be able to quit your day job.
Which I assume you have. Did you ever have a day job, by the way?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, definitely. I moved a lot of boxes. I was big into packing boxes and shipping them to various places.
So let's talk about Benefactors and this production at the Ensemble. It's an Olivier award-winning production or story. Do you want to sort of set the scene of this play and who you are?
Yeah, so it's set in the late 60s. It was written in 1984, so it was written just as kind of Thatcher was about to become elected. It's set in the late 60s. It's about two couples, and there is a housing scheme that one of the couples really is working on, social housing. And so the question right in the middle is about need, want, the desire to help, if that's even possible, the responsibilities we have. And then more personally, between the two couples, there's a certain push and pull of codependency, on resentment, on need. And what's really interesting about the play is you're watching these four characters really wrestle internally with each other, and it's funny and it's bitey, and sometimes they say things that are mean or unintended, and sometimes they say things loving and unintended, but they're really wrestling with how to help and be with each other, really.
So they're two couples. Are they also within that? I mean, I'm assuming they're kind of middle-class idealist people who want to make a change. And how apt this sort of still resonates today. I mean, in the push for social housing and that sort of thing. What is your particular character's ideals? Like, is that you're one of the dreamers?
Yeah, so the four characters all come from very different perspectives. They're very cleverly written in that they feel very real and very of the same class, but they have very different perspectives. So I play the architect who's building this tower, and very much the optimist and the dreamer, and thinks big, but probably is very blind to the suffering that's in front of him or what it means. So for my character, I'm dreaming of those big towers in the sky, and it was kind of a utopian ideal. Some of what became these pretty dreadful towers. I mean, the most horrific one being Greenfell, which then just terribly built. Supposed to be an answer, but just a terrible problem in its own right. But the initial idea and ideal, particularly from my character, is to build housing, which is a community. And that's just my perspective. And on the other side, we have other characters who think that that's impossible, or who are a bit more knowing or a bit more cynical. And the answer is, of course, it's really hard to find what the answer is. Maybe there is no answer, but we've got to keep finding, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of, as we sort of hinted at, the times today, this sort of ideal faced with reality and money and all the other things that come into play with when talking about housing. Are you forced to confront, the reality of those that are suffering throughout the play, and how does your character kind of deal with that if you do?
My character throughout the play has such strong ideals, and in the way that many idealists suffer from, I guess, keeps coming up against the harsh realities. And so I guess how a person changes when confronted by the harsh realities of the situation is different. And from my character, he tries to keep that dream alive, and he keeps shifting the goalposts. He keeps changing his not just, but I think for him, it's not just about changing the ideal or it lowering. The goalposts don't lower for him. He changes what he believes he always thought was the answer.
Right.
So, for instance, at the beginning, all he knows is he's not going to build towers. He's going to build something far, far better. And of course, as the play progresses, he starts building towers. And how much he knows that's a bad idea is kind of up in the air. I think this play is very, very clever in that the characters are very contradictory. And so, for instance, my character, I think 80% of him still believes that building towers will be the best possible thing and a utopian ideal, but 20% of him knows that it's going to be a disaster.
Right. So have we got a set that is like, what is it called, mid-century modern 60s like set, like to talk about the world you're in, and are you doing it in accents? We're very much trying to set it in that time. It felt really important because not just to kind of really set the scene, but also sometimes when you see there's extra resonance when you see something set 40 years ago and you go, that's about today. That's still a question. And so Nick Fry is the designer, and he's done a terrific job. It basically it takes place within a 1960s middle-class kitchen, but there's a real brutalist aesthetic going on behind it and behind the walls. And in terms of the play itself, it's in a kitchen and in the kind of constant rush, sitting down for tea, clearing things away, pouring wines, kids running in, kids running out, imaginary kids in this case. It's a busy household. And we really set the scene. We're wearing the costumes, we're speaking the words and the accents that they were written for. Do you have trouble with accents? I mean, I can never do accents. It's like one reason probably I didn't pursue acting. But, what are the techniques for doing accents? I mean, maybe this is quite an easy one for you. I don't know, but...
No, I think no accents are that easy, really. Some people are really natural with them.
Yeah.
I know it's easier for me now because I've had to do so many. So I know what my problems are. I know what my blind spots are a little bit. And I know the kind of shape my mouth. Accents, it's interesting. A lot of it is about getting that initial mouth shape, where your tongue sits, where your jaw sits. And then if you can get that down, it becomes much easier to get the specifics of each noun and consonant. But accents now, you just got to work on them like anything. And we had a really good teacher as well. So Linda came in, our dialect coach, and she'd come in once a week and just go, okay, you're hitting that a little bit hard, or you're doing this, you're doing that, and just to keep on it, because it is just like anything, it's a process. But I'm certainly, some people have 18 accents in their head all the time. I don't. I maybe have 2 accents in my head, and as soon as I learn a new one, one just disappears forever.
Has there been a role that you've had to play that maybe not necessarily an accent, but finding this sort of character that is inside of you, or how do you find the character for roles and and what it has been something difficult?
I love finding characters. I think that's the most enjoyable thing. I think you've just always got to. First of all, everyone's got their own process, and no one really knows how to do it. My friend said something once, and I thought it was true. He's like, every time you do a play or a film or whatever it is, you have to learn to act again, and it's true. You never have any idea, and being lost in the dark is part of it. But I love it. I just really try to think, what are the circumstances that would make me behave in that way? And I think hopefully for me, coming from that perspective, it's really going, I have the capacity to be a hero or a villain. I have the capacity for great cruelty or great kindness, as we all do. Really try to embody those circumstances that led me to behave in this particular way.
So not thinking about the character and what they've confronted, but something in your life that would provoke you to act like that. I've not thought of it like that.
I think that can be helpful, yeah, definitely. Because otherwise there's the temptation to make it a very kind of thin look at a person. But if you consider that I have that capacity to do that thing, what are the changes that would have had to occur in my life that would have led me there? Yeah, I think hopefully you get a little bit more empathy and understanding in terms of the psychology of that person.
And somehow the psychology of you too, obviously.
Yeah. I think, it's all, I think a lot of acting, it all stems from a similar place of people who study psychology, in terms of you're just curious about why someone's behaving in the way they're behaving. And you want to unpack it a little bit.
When I was looking around, online, I saw that you were part of some panel. It was probably a few years ago now, but on the anxiety of performance, or the not stage fright, but sort of around that. Like, can you talk a bit about that? And does that happen all the time? Are you nervous all the time performing, or not so much?
Definitely. Definitely. It's strange. And almost every actor is. You know that thing that a lot of people say, you need a thick skin to be an actor? I wish that was true, but unfortunately, you really need a really thin skin, because you've got to be so available to your emotional state. You kind of have to be raw. And I think to be thin-skinned is to be a bit raw and to be available to kind of hurt a little bit. Because otherwise, if you build your walls too high, you won't be able to access that when you need to in your job. So it's really interesting. I remember the first play I did, and it was with people who'd been doing it for decades, and some of the top, biggest, most extraordinary actors that I've ever seen or worked with. And I just remember going, oh my God, they're terrified. They're just as terrified as me, which is true. Also, terror and anxiety, they can stop you. They can make you put your head in your sand, or they can also make you work really hard. So it's not all bad, I guess. But yeah, everyone's still, show me a truly confident actor and I will show you a charlatan.
I think I heard somewhere written something along the lines of, if you don't have that feeling, then you kind of don't care. And if you don't care, no one else will care, sort of along the way. So back to Benefactors. What have you learnt about maybe, the attitudes towards housing, or what have you learned along the way?
Anything to do with housing, like everyone you speak to in Sydney, I'm sure is just like, it's the most infuriating, sad, hopeless topic of conversation. It is infuriating, but I think we kind of do know what the answer is, but the answer will require everyone to pitch in, not just people involved in social housing, but we'd have to make the big houses smaller, fundamentally, right? And if we're not willing to do that, which it definitely seems we're not, then we won't really be able to fix it. But like anything political or anything social or anything moral, it seems like what we lack, or like climate change or whatever it is, we kind of know the technology required. We just need the will to do it. And we just need greed to move out of the way, and then things would be a little bit better, huh?
And not lose the hope or the ideal of it as well. And maybe, how far will you lower your standards to?
Yes. Yes. How far are we as a society willing to lower our standards of what we expect people to live in?
I suppose, and exactly what you said. You're talking about community housing, so it needs a community behind it. It can't be the individuals.
Yes. Yeah.
On that note, Gareth Davies, I think we got very philosophical, if not poetic.
We did get the philosophy. I'm not sure about the poetry, but we got the philosophy in there a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Regina. See you later.
Well, that was Gareth Davies from Benefactors, which is by Michael Frayn. And this was written, as you said, in the 80s, an Olivier Award-winning play. It looks just terrific. That's Benefactors on at the Ensemble Theatre till the 22nd of July.